So why the hell would someone choose a clone keyboard over the original? Let's find out. I'm Real Gion and welcome to the channel. Right off the bat, both keyboards look very similar. Both got dedicated media controls, volume scroll wheel, full size, but the inline layout is standard, while the K70 has an ISO layout. This is really important if you plan on replacing keycaps, and if you don't plan on modding your keyboard, then layout doesn't matter. The inline has the RGB side blades that cannot be turned off. The logo lights up, but it's red only. Also, the media keys are stuck as red as well. If you want consistency in your lighting setup, you're better off going with the K70. I think the back plate on the K70 is made of actual aluminium or however you want to pronounce that particular friggin' word, while the inland feels like plastic. The inland has a row of macro keys, but they're on top and it seems like it doesn't make sense in terms of gaming applications. It's probably better off for people that are just editing videos. There's also a profile switcher on the inland, which is something that the K70 doesn't, at least my K70 doesn't. If you buy the OMK-x, it might be a little bit different. Both keyboards have this bold gamer font, but I replaced mine with double shot PBT, so you're gonna get a different set of keycaps if you're planning on buying this keyboard. One thing that I noticed visually is when you look at both keyboards, you can just tell right off the bat that one's more expensive. I can't really put my finger on it, but the inland just looks cheap from a distance and up close. And if you want an expensive looking keyboard, I say go with the K70. The switches is pretty much the main reason why I jumped on the inland and never really looked back. The inland uses the optical blue switches and I believe they're from KO just from looking at the switch housing. I could be wrong, so don't quote me. The K70 has the brand name Cherry MX Blue, which is a pretty inconsistent switch and it's known to have issues according to the owners and Corsair when they actually made them. I always liked the design and features of the K70, but I didn't like that the switch is much stiffer than what I really want it to be. It's just too rough for me. I often get finger fatigue and it's really hard to type for a long time. There's actually a time when I owned the MX Brown version of the keyboard. It's very interesting, it makes a different sound, but at the end of the day, it doesn't click. I like clicky keyboards always and always will, I guess. I like it since the first time when I first have a mechanical keyboard, the Razer Black Widow Battlefield Edition. I still have that keyboard till today. It's pretty much collecting dust and people definitely commented on how nasty the keyboard was and probably still is. But I don't plan on getting rid of it because it was my gateway keyboard. Anyways, after a few days after Black Friday, I stumbled upon this keyboard and I was very interested because I remember liking the optical switches a lot after using the Razer Huntsman, but I ended up not keeping that keyboard because the layout just wasn't doing it for me. When I got the keyboard home, I noticed it has a USB pass-through during my box opening, and it has a standard layout. At that point, I touched the keyboard, and I'm sold. Anyways, here's what the keyboard sounds like against the K70. Both keyboards uses Cherry MX stabilizers, which is great because it makes life easy when pulling up the longer keycaps. If you don't mod your keyboard or clean your keyboard, then this is probably a useless feature to you, and I would recommend going with the Corsair stabilizers because the longer keycaps feel better, at least in my opinion, so I feel like I have to say that just to remain PC. The wrist game here is better with the inland because it's magnetic instead of the hooks like the K70. Both are hard plastic and both should be called palm rests because my wrist does not touch it, but it might be different with you, so I'm giving the win to the inland. Both keyboards have flip-up feet with rubber on them. Both keyboards have USB pass-through, but the K70 has bottom feet so you can raise the keyboard up completely. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you have the option to. The K70 has a braided USB cable instead of rubber, but some people might like the rubber more. The inland have cable management Velcro, so I think I'm giving this one a tie because the inland have Velcro. K70 has braided, also the inland has gold tip USB, and the K70 has silver tip, so thought you guys might want to know that as well. Hands down, the K70 wins in the software. The K70 have the best lighting feature that I use on a keyboard so far. I have yet to see as much lighting features as the K70. Razer come close but ultimately fall short in the layers. Corsair have a very strong community that will share their lighting effects and offer a ton of value in the long run if you're into lighting effects. Let's be honest, the lighting effect is probably the main reason why people spend the big bucks to get something like the K70 in the first place. Personally, I didn't because I wanted the USB pass-through and blue switches, and I can definitely see why people spend $170 retail to get access to the array of lighting effects. The software on the inland is pathetic being compared to the K70, which makes absolute sense because this is a clone keyboard after all. The inland has lots of lighting effects, but no layers and certainly no community like the K70. The software is an easy win for the K70. You can always compare prices always subject to change, so inland retails $84.99, K70 retails at a cool $170. But here's the thing, if you're not like me and you don't care for soft, clicky keyboard, go with this K70. It has features that might be more useful to you. If you have different lighting setups and you want everything to match, go with the K70. If you want an expensive looking keyboard to show off to your friends, go with the K70. If you like brown or red switches, go with the K70. In the grand scheme of things, most people would go for the K70, and honestly, I can definitely see why, because the keyboard has mass appeal. For me, I wanted a clicky blue switch that's soft with USB pass-through and a standard layout. Personally, I don't care for RGB because most, if not all of the time, I set to some variation of blue anyways. So it's hardware that makes me attract the inland, and it's hardware that makes me choose the inland over the K70. But if you're not like me, you're probably better off with the K70. That's pretty much it. I know it's a longer vid than usual, but subscribe, click bell for more content, stay awesome.